Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of J Squared. My name is Justin Carpenter.
My name is Jenna McClelland.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about secret agendas. Ooh, sounds scary, right? These are the these are the layers that we bring into relationship egoically based. So, what is a secret agenda? How would you define a secret agenda in your words, Jenna?
A secret agenda would be a subconscious recognition, a subconscious way of thinking of how you're going to or why you're entering into a relationship that actually becomes the seed to the relationship altogether.
Right. So the survival brain has these ego based motives for creating a condition on a relationship of I need to have this acquired, I need to have this layer of perception of safety or whatever it may look like. And that's the sort of baseline energy that I bring into a relationship. That's the energy that I'm molding towards my prospective partner. And just as we mentioned in the sampling episode about viewing others as transactional, this is just another form of that, though it's much more subtle and harder to see, much less talked about. But this is another form of viewing another as a transaction. So, what are some examples of what we're talking about? So, say a woman exposes her body in order to attract a partner, in order to attract a mate. Um, while doing this, what energetically she's putting out there is I'm attracting somebody who is so physically focused and so tuned into that. And so then it's no surprise later on down the road when she's in a relationship with somebody like that and he cheats on her because he's drawn to somebody else physically. So this is the sort of hidden agenda that she's putting out there to say, I'm trying to fulfill this part of myself by exposing myself in this way. And then this creates this sort of karmic reaction later on down the road.
Yeah, it's really interesting and it's really small how this seed becomes the fuel, right? It's the motivator. It's what drives you forward to take action in order to have a mate, catch a mate, or choose a particular person over the other. For example, if there is this driver of, oh, I need to use my body, like Justin was saying, to catch a man, well, guess what? That man that's going to come in is going to be starving, hungry for physical attraction, and it's going to be an extremely lustful type of man. So, to understand the dynamics when we are as women going in to hunt, what is the fuel? Are you using your body? Are you interviewing this person? What is it that you are looking for that underneath that is going to fulfill a need because you need this need fulfilled in order to not have a feeling? It always gets down to a feeling. If you're not feeling good enough, well, guess what? You're going to try to find someone to fill all the spaces in your life where you don't have to feel that feeling of being good enough because now there's the need. So I'm going to need him to be physically strong, right? Because like I don't feel like I'm really that strong and I can keep a roof over my head. So I see this man who looks physically strong. So he's going to be able to fulfill my needs. So I don't have to feel that feeling of being weak or not being strong, right? A lot of men also do this with women. They will deny their emotional intelligence because they see a emotionally intelligent and creative woman who knows how to communicate her desires, her wants, her needs, and she becomes the fuel, the breath between the relationship. So now he's like, well, I don't have to work on my emotional healing or my own emotional aptitude because she can carry that weight for me. So there is this underlining, this rotten, inauthentic way that we begin to choose people and choose relationships due to these subconscious feelings. So it becomes this really fascinating contract entry, actually, when this actually happens. And we ask ourselves, I worked really hard. He worked really hard. Why isn't this working? Or it was good for 3 years and all of a sudden something happens and you can't figure it out. You can't get the chemistry. You can't connect anymore. You're just not seeing eye to eye. Well, if there was a bad karmic seed, or if this is how you began your relationship subconsciously, then guess what? That is going to come back to haunt you because that was the karmic seed, the inauthenticity that you planted into the relationship. So the universe knows you cannot hide anything from the universe and from karma as best as you try, right? And that's going to come back to harm you unless you actually do something called brutal honesty. There's radical honesty, but there's brutal honesty. And it's brutal because you have to be brutal to the toxic identities that live inside you so you can be aware of the feeling and the needs, so you can face it head on and say, you know what? Hey, I recognize I'm going to be brutally honest here, take radical responsibility and share, hey, actually this was one of the fuels, this was the gas that started our motor in our relationship, and I want to come clean and actually clear this seed out so we can cultivate authentic love.
Right. Yeah, this is as we've talked about before, building the relationship on the sand instead of the solid rock. So for building the relationship based on a need, some unfulfilled, unmet need within me, some perception that I have this need, then I'm projecting that onto anyone that I come into contact with, including a romantic partner. And then everything built off of that relationship, built on this facade, is built on the sand, and it will blow away at the first storm. That's why we're seeing constant divorce and marriages being broken up all over the place, because these foundations are set on such an insecure place, because there's no security in here. There's no starting here to say, I'm going to address my needs. I'm not going to project them onto another. And then I'm through those needs, then they then create these secret agendas, these hidden agendas that come to play out later on down the road. So like Jenna is saying, that it's not that all hope is lost if you recognize that this is how your relationship was formed, but it does require this very, very direct honesty, starting with yourself and then bringing it into the partner. Because what happens is, even if we're not, even if we think that this is a really secret hidden agenda, we haven't spoken about it, it has never been clear, like Jenna said, there's no way to hide it. It's going to come out somewhere or another. Energetically, your partner's soul is going to feel that there's some sort of inauthentic nature within the relationship, and it's not going to sustain. It's going to bubble up. It's going to have some emotional reaction. There's going to be some life consequence that happens to sort of bring it to the surface. And this can all be addressed if we go through this radical honesty moment and say, you know what? I came into this relationship with this unmet need. I was projecting this onto my partner. How can I sit with myself, recognize this, apologize both to myself, and then bring it to my partner later on down the road once I've established that, and say, hey, this is what I came into this relationship with. I recognize that I was projecting this onto you now, and this is where I want to reform the relationship. And in that moment, it actually is a death of the old relationship. But it's an opportunity to have it be rebirthed into something new, or not, or dissolved. But either way, it's not going to sustain on that downward trajectory. It's a slow moving train wreck that is going to fail at some point or another, unless it's addressed in this way.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I want to develop clarity under is Justin was talking about the survival brain, right? When we think survival brain, we're thinking body, we're thinking sympathetic nervous system, we're thinking fight or flight. The survival brain can take complete ownership of our body, especially if we were conditioned in the matrix. The matrix has inverted our way of being, our way of connecting to energy and matter, and how to go after things and chase for stuff outside of ourself rather than already feeling whole, right? Because there's nothing that you can add or subtract to wholeness to make it more whole. So wholeness is not really needing anything, right? You don't need anything. You are absolutely complete. You are happy. And anyone who acts a certain way, hey, you're free to act that way. I don't have any needs. I don't have any expectations. I'm free to act that way. Like, be free so others can be free, or let others be free so you can be free. So, really understanding the survival brain is I need, I need, I need, I want, I want, I want. It's this constant chasing and this everlasting anxiety that overcomes the body. It's never enough money, it's never enough compliments, it's never enough opportunity. It's just never enough. It's a cup with a hole at the bottom, and you just keep pouring, and you start realizing, and like, I hate to say it this way, but like, when you really take a step back and compare this survival brain to this wholeness self, this divine self, the higher self of who we are, it's rather pathetic. And I know that might sound like a little tough, but when you can really think about it, because I had an experience a couple weeks ago, and I was totally overcome by the survival self, the survival brain, and going through anxiety, going through depression, going through worry and panic and all of those things. And I took a step back. I actually heard this quote by Christ. It was, "Not my will, but yours be done." And I was completely and totally just paralyzed in that moment, thinking, how pathetic is this, Jenna? Like, I have everything that I need right now in this moment. Is this moment not enough for me? I have a beautiful and wonderful husband. I have a roof over my head. I know I'm going to have a meal later today. I know I'm going to have a meal for the rest of this week, the rest of this month, the rest of this year, and here I am complaining that it's not enough. So when you can feel that energy and you're like constantly striving and needing more and more and more, pause and ask yourself, is it okay for me to just be here where I am at? Because is life the way that it is currently, with this breath that I have moving through me, not enough? And you can start to see the silliness and how almost like we've become these Western brats to a certain degree, but we've been trained to think that way, right? I'm just creating an extreme example for you to see the dichotomy, the contrast between what can happen when you actually choose to take a seat and listen to yourself and choose to move the barometer towards a higher vantage point, towards a higher timeline of experiencing. So I really wanted to bring the understanding of the survival brain and how it takes over your life and does not make you feel safe. But if you are whole, you understand that energy, my safety is going to bring in all of the things matter. Energy precedes matter. Feel the energy, the matter will come. But we've become so addicted to the matter coming itself. So I don't know, I just felt inclined to share that.
Yeah, very well said. And it is this perpetual black hole when we're stuck in this survival mode reality. We're always looking for something to fill this perceived hole within ourselves. And we're always looking in the external to fill that. So whether that's with material possessions, whether that's with relationships, it doesn't matter. If I have this perceived need within myself, I'm going to be looking everywhere else to fill that. And the only one who can flip that switch to come back to realization that I am whole, I am complete, is you. So you can't project that onto somebody else and say, oh, you're going to fix this. You're going to address this. You can't go to therapy or counseling and have them tell you all these things to fix that until you're willing to recognize that I am whole, I am complete, and I want to build my foundation of life based on that. Then everything else is going to be that constant grabbing, constant parasitic nature of trying to fill that void, and it will never be filled. It will never be filled. So that's the switch, is to come back to realizing that you are whole, you are complete, and you've never been lost. We've just been conditioned in ways, and it's okay. You know, it's realizing to come back to that so that I can start from a new space. I can start from square one. I can start from that realization and rebuild and renew all of my relationships, both with myself and with everyone around me, from that place of wholeness, but also coming from the space of I don't need these relationships to continue projecting that, because sometimes when we come back to that wholeness, that same pattern of parasitic nature of grabbing everything in the external, sometimes that exposes those relationships as something that's not not resonating in the same space anymore. Where we might not be oscillating in the same frequency. So it's okay to let those go. And so this also plays into the romantic relationship. When we do make this switch to move from the hidden agenda, uh, karmic, egoic led impulses of the needs and switch to that wholeness format, sometimes that might reveal that that relationship cannot continue in that way. It certainly cannot continue in that way, but sometimes it can't continue at all. And that's something we also have to be okay with. And because, as I said before, it cannot sustain from that void centered space where everything has to be taken from the external.
Yeah, and, the more that you evolve, the more that you dissolve, and the more we're moving through this ebb and flow of this evolution, right? You start to notice that the things are, how do I say this? Like, everything gets so sneaky, right? Like the way that you notice these toxic identities coming in, or the way that you feel these needs, or you reveal the hidden agenda. One of the best ways, my best practice is understanding the energy behind the thing. What is the energy behind what it is that I am doing? What is the energy behind my actions? What is the energy behind my yeses, my nos? What is my energy behind everything? And you'll start to notice when you peel those layers back how much is revealed. When I was going through this chaos a couple of weeks ago, I was telling Justin, like, who am I? Right? Like, you start to notice more and more because you're just kind of moving through almost the haystack trying to find the needle. Not to say that, the treasure is there, and it's small, but it's I mean, like, small in terms of being able to find it, but it's rather large, and not very many will actually go through this type of exercise, go through this type of path in order to actually find the treasure, which is why it is so hard. This is not really the path for many.
No.
So, when I'm talking about the energy behind things, I want to speak upon the activation of soul contracts and contracts, and how you can release them, but most importantly, how they even get activated. And it's to go deeper into the hidden agenda, the subtle secret, right? The spirit behind the relationship. And it could be romantic, it could also be a friendship. I've had personal karmic relationships with women where I've picked up on a need behind, and that relationship didn't survive. Like, no relationship will survive. Not many things will survive if there is a rotten, bad karmic seed. It's going to explode sooner or later. So we begin with the recognition. So the contract starts when you recognize something, a way that you felt with an individual. So that recognition is a deep internal toxic identity and feeling. So when you feel that thing, the thing could be, um, I'm not good enough. I don't want to be alone. Um, I want to be seen. I want to be wanted, right? Those are the feelings. And so that's the little hidden agenda, the secret, the energy behind the cultivation of this relationship that you are making. And as soon as you have that feeling, it's very subtle. Remember, I said these things are very sneaky. That boom, that's going to activate the contract between two people. And you can choose one or two ways. You can recognize this feeling, you can recognize the activation and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm recognizing this now. I'm going to expose it fully and dissolve the need," right? Or you can subconsciously and unconsciously move into the relationship and allow the other things to unfold. So what happens after the recognition is something called, Justin mentioned it earlier, is the egoic impulses. So the egoic impulse is going to be, well, I'm feeling really lonely. Therefore, he's going to help me not feel alone anymore. So they're fulfilling that thing. After that, it's a delusional expectation. People come up with stuff all the time. The delusional expectation now would be, I don't want to feel alone. Okay, well, oh my gosh, now here's Justin. He's kind of cool. I don't have to feel alone anymore. I can hang out with him and start to kind of build something here. Because now that we build something here comes the delusional expectation. We can go to places. Maybe he'll introduce me to some cool people who maybe they'd want me to have them on their podcast, or we would get to kind of like maybe rise and go to a gala, and I'd get to wear some something fun and I'll get to be social because I have a buddy now, right? Those become the delusional expectations. This can happen with money. I've been there. I did that. My divorce ended, right? Or my previous marriage ended. It could be, what else, Justin?
Yeah, it could be with status, illusion of grandeur,
Status, yeah, coming up to a higher, yeah, the social status or
mhm,
working status, your career. It could. I just want to be seen, man. I am so alone, and I want to be seen. So there's so many
comes
variations.
with physicality, sex, just having that
That too,
having that as a standard, or
huge.
all of it kind of stems from that same sort of inner void of you feeling as you're not complete.
Then now you have all these scenarios in which of all these amazing things that you now get to do because the feeling you're not going to have to feel it anymore, and they're going to fill the cup for you.
But it's temporary.
But it's this temporary thing because remember, you cannot hide from the universe. Like, good luck trying because like I've been caught many times and wow, it's real. So like why not be brutally honest with yourself and with the universe and say, "Listen, I want to create a full clean relationship here where I'm fully exposed so that I can be on this beautiful path of having authentic love." And what is authentic love? It's no needs, no hidden agendas. Taking ownership of the things, they come up. Okay, you go into your room, you dissolve, you do the work, you come together, right? And that's why we don't see very many happy
Mm,
relationships anymore.
mm-mm. No, because there's not that radical honesty to say, here I am, and I'm okay if that's not what you want, right? Like to be okay with the relationship itself dissolving is the actual only way for that relationship to truly exist. If we're not okay with that, then it's built on a need. It's built on this false idea that I have to preserve it by having a secret agenda, by maneuvering myself inauthentically so that I can corral and keep them in. It has all of these ways to create scenarios and create these different external environments so that I'm tricking my partner into thinking that I am this way or that way. This is where this,
You know what's a really good one? I want to be the rescuer.
yeah,
I want to fix this
yep,
person.
I've
There's
been
just
there.
another I've been there. I can imagine most people in this space, we've been there, right? We want to fix that person. We want to be the go-getter and see them and all the potential that we know that they have. But again, that's actually causing harm in the psychic realm
Totally.
because you're wanting them to heal, to be better, to grow, to evolve, to dissolve more than they are. And so that's actually you trying to hijack their own evolutionary timing and epiphany and enlightenment, right? So it causes a lot of harm. That's why I used to be like, oh, these guys need to heal from circumcision. You need to see all this circumcision trauma. It's so bad. But then I was like, what am I doing? Like they're still in a space where they're not ready to look at it. They're having fun in the victim. They're having fun in this anger. They're enjoying that. Let them be free so you can be free.
Right. So as the model Jenna spoke on earlier, the egoic impulse is to jump in and to try and make that happen
Yeah.
with the delusional expectation that they have to hear it, that they have to move through it just because I see it.
Like the truther, how guilty was I during COVID? Like, please, like for the love of God, and just trying to be also the hero at the end of the day, right? Because I needed to be the hero because maybe I wasn't internally feeling like the hero of my own life.
Right. And that always leads to suffering.
Yeah.
It never fulfills anything. It doesn't even help the other individual by trying to do that at all. It actually deters them and makes it go further the opposite direction. So all of these things, we can find infinite examples of where they show up, but it really does come down to that simple formula. If I'm projecting onto life from these unmet needs, from this idea that I am incomplete, that I have to have something in the external happen in a certain way, whether it's a relationship or external circumstance, then I will always be in that incomplete state. And I'll always be chasing something that can never actually be, looking for these temporary quick hits of drugs, basically. That's all they are, to satisfy those needs for a short time. And maybe I can manipulate the situation to have those needs be kind of coiled for, some time, but it will always fail. It's never going to sustain in that sort of way. So how do we shift this, especially when it comes to relationships? And we mentioned it briefly, but it does come to this being radically honest with yourself and having that moment to where I can scan this relationship and what I was coming into it to see if I have any hidden agendas or secret agendas. And that's actually what Jenna and I did when we were coming into our relationship is sit down, everything, of course, it's wonderful at the beginning and we're coming into it. And but to have that sort of conscious insertion to say, okay, let me sit with myself and go through, are there any unmet needs that I'm coming into this? Was there any space of loneliness that I'm trying to move past through by using Jenna? Is there some sort of financial help that I'm trying to move past that I'm using Jenna to do? Any of these kind of things can come up. And so to go through every area of your life and say, am I using this am I using this sort of like as a projection to address these needs within myself? And then sit with that. And if they come up, then that's the chance to dissolve it. That's the chance to recognize that I don't have any of these needs. Any of them were projected by the ego, and dissolve them. Otherwise, as we said, their relationship can't really form. They can't really be real.
Yeah. Well, it'll just deteriorate. It'll form, but it'll just deteriorate and you won't know why.
Yeah.
And the why is usually going to be the case, this thing.
Mhm.
Like, I'd say that weird, but like the majority of the time it's going to be this is the problem. And it's not something that many people are talking about. It's not that some that people are even really aware of fully. And when we enter relationships with karma that we still have yet to clear, lessons that we have come in this lifetime to finish, those can also be activated within the relationship as well, considering the types of dynamics that flow between the male and the female, right? The male wants to be valuable. He wants to be useful, but there becomes this really interesting moment of grooming where you begin to groom into one another's preferences. And over time, let's say, here's an example. You have a woman who bought, before he entered her life, this beautiful dress, and she puts it on. They're about to go to some engagement. And she asks him, "Hey, what do you think of this dress?" And he actually tells her, "It's too revealing." So she's gonna then be like, "Oh, okay, well, like, I don't wanna make him uncomfortable, so I'm gonna have to mold my preferences." She clearly liked the dress, right? Like, she bought it, but I'm gonna have to mold my preferences for this man. And so what can begin to happen is he'll do the same to with her, like she'll set preferences for him and they'll go back and forth. But as karma starts to reveal itself, let's say there's a bad karmic seed or past life karma comes in or even current life karma comes in. That is when this whole it's almost like you have ants in a jar and you're just going to shake the jar. Like everything kind of goes to shit. So eventually you'll see a woman, she's pissed off at him, he's pissed at her, they're not communicating anymore, she's being triggered, he's being triggered. This is all stuff that they both need to work on individually because they have needs, right? I need to be respected, I need to be appreciated, she doesn't appreciate me, and she's doing all the things, and it just it depends, right? That's a total matrix style home or house, right? Household. Eventually she's gonna wanna piss him off. I've been there. She's gonna wanna piss this guy off and show up one day, she's going out with the girls, and guess what she's doing? She's wearing the dress. So that's just kind of like an example of the ways that our habitat inside the home can reveal itself and how when we are not taking ownership of the things that we've brought into the relationship or the things that come up in the relationship, there's just going to be you're on two different highways. You're on one highway of thought, which is a total biochemical roller coaster, and then someone's going on the other end of it. And then you have complete disconnect. And when your biochemistry is off and his biochemistry is off, there's no harmony. There's no more chemistry between the two people, which is why exposure is the ingredient. It is the number one ingredient in order to eradicate any issues that you have in a relationship that you still know deep down love is there and authenticity to be together and trueness to that is real.
Yeah. And you can just imagine the level of mental gymnastics that people go through in those kind of scenarios, thinking about what they did at this moment and how that pisses me off. And this happened at that point, and there's no connection. There's
She
no,
doesn't value me
yeah.
because you need to be valued, right?
And any attempts at communication are just used to blame the other, and that just further drives the more disconnection, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so it is inevitable that that relationship will dissolve. And like I said, it really already has. There really is no true relationship. There's no true connection in that reality based off needs, because it is a house built on sand, and it will blow away. So let's redefine that and establish it on the truth that you are whole, you are complete, you don't need anything, and don't project that onto somebody else. Don't view others as a transaction, something to use in order to do the work that you have to do, which is to come back to yourself.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and stay tuned for many more discussions around this topic. So have a good,
Bye.
take care.